Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. A little bit different today. I am actually joined by two guests. We're going to have a conversation with a couple of great guys, Jeremy Boudinet, who is the owner at Boudinet Media, and Blake Johnston, owner at OutboundView. Hey guys, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Logan.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, this is going to be great. Let's start with you, Jeremy. I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do at Boudinet Media before we get into today's topic.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Logan. Jeremy Boudinet, been in SaaS marketing here for about 5 years. Prior to starting Boudinet Media, I worked at Ambition. We were a software startup that basically sold sales coaching, analytics, and gamification technology, helped take them as director of marketing from 2 clients to 7-figure revenue, ARR, annual recurring revenue, and got to the point where we were hockey sticking. Left the company in May of this year, started my own business, and am basically doing digital content marketing services and consulting, specializing in B2B and software companies.
Awesome. Great to hear that growth story you were a part of, man. Obviously, some marketing lessons you learned along the way that you're taking with you into the next phase. Blake, you're up, man. Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, Blake, you're up. Give us, our listeners, a little bit of a taste of your background and what you're up to these days.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks. So Blake Johnston, I'm the owner of OutboundView. So we're a sales and marketing consultancy in Nashville, Tennessee. So we really focus on everything top of funnel for B2B companies. So things like outbound marketing, inbound marketing, paid advertising, as well as appointment setting. And so I've been in various kind of sales and marketing roles for the last 15 years, from kind of enterprise sales all the way to running startups, running digital campaigns, doing content. And so, we've been around for about a year and work with a lot of software companies and B2B startups.
Awesome. I love it. Well, we are going to be breaking down some of the key takeaways from a playbook that Jeremy and Blake have collaborated on to put together. The name of this piece of content is the Organic Inbound Marketing Playbook. And we're going to be breaking down really some takeaways from 3 key sections: your audience, ways to approach your content, and then the process and analytics, and take some of the key lessons from each one of those and get fairly granular on a couple pieces there. So Blake, I think you wanted to take this first one right in the audience. One of the things you guys talk about in this ebook is a 2-part approach to your target audience. Tell us a little bit about how this approach can help today's B2B marketers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, everybody knows that, understanding your audience and your buyers is absolutely critical. So that's not necessarily something new. But really, I think about it in a couple different ways. I think Jeremy does as well. The main is one, starting at the account level. And so when we think about the types of companies and the types of accounts that you're targeting, there are various levels of research that you can put into that. So the first really is like just basic research, size of company, what industry are they in, how large are they, those types of things. And the second is more kind of account-based, research. So really, what do we know about the account? What are their major pain points? And obviously, as the organizations get larger, this becomes a little bit easier to do this research. And then the third really is buying triggers. And these are like, optimal scenario is like you understand within the companies what types of things are happening that may mean that they're going to buy your product or service. And it's like I'll use OutboundView as a good example on buying triggers. I mean, when we see that there's a new VP of sales in one of our target accounts, or we see things like they don't have a lot of inbound traffic, these are indicators to us that like outbound marketing or appointment setting, or because they have a new VP of sales, they're going to be looking at their lead generation strategies broadly. And so if we can get to kind of understanding the buying triggers in our key accounts, like obviously that's critical. And then the second piece of this is more the actual individuals at these companies. And I try and make it just as simple as possible, right? So I just break it into two categories. I mean, if you're looking at your key buyers, kind of who are the decision makers and then who are the real doers, right? Because you need to be marketing differently to those two people. It's obviously critical that you're marketing to the decision maker because they're the one that's going to be actually paying for it and signing the contract. But many times those people aren't involved in a lot of the evaluation process, or those aren't the people that might get you introduced into an organization. And so I just kind of think through when you're creating any piece of content or when you're building messaging and you're really trying to understand who are the buyers on like a complex B2B sale, like just breaking it down to decision maker and doer and targeting in that way, I think is just really helpful. And it's an easy way to break down your buyer personas.
Mm-hmm. You make a great point there. I mean, very few decisions these days from large to small in B2B are made by one buyer. It's usually decision by committee, right? It's partially because there are multiple stakeholders, but also kind of the spread of liability in case this ends up being a bad decision. Do you see there being an opportunity there, Blake, for marketers to create additional sales enablement pieces as they, a lot of marketers are talking about the shift to an ABM approach and maybe even, a micro piece of content that needs to be served up to, an executive level decision maker who's not involved until the decision phase. Does this kind of play into not only what type of content that you're producing, but when you're trying to get it in front of the right people, especially in the enterprise, right?
Yep. Yeah, you make such a good point. And one of the things that we talk with our clients about, especially when you're targeting that doer group, is many times like this is the person that's going to be selling on your behalf when you're not there. So when we think about like content pieces as a part of the sales process, how can you equip that individual to not only be able to kind of have a real strong understanding of like what are your differentiators and how are they selling internally with those other people? It's just absolutely critical, and it's a piece of content that is often missed. We spend so much time creating pieces of content for the actual pitch or for that intro discussion, and we forget that like after we go away, they're picking a provider, and we need to equip them with other pieces of content that help them sell on our behalf. So yes, absolutely love it.
Going from sales enablement to maybe doer enablement throughout the sales process. Maybe not the best name, but something to go off of there, right?
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jeremy, want to hear from you on this next piece. So, as we mentioned, the second main pillar of this playbook is your content. Talking about an inbound marketing playbook, there's really nothing to talk about if there isn't content fueling the engine. And one of the things I know you mentioned as we were chatting offline beforehand was packaging content for maximum distribution. Tell us a little bit about some of the strategies that you share with folks in this ebook.
Yeah, so we, every time you create a piece of content, that's a major time investment, right? And you need your content to be as impactful as possible. So one of the things we did, and we insourced all this stuff, was we would try to, do something, whether it be a client interview or testimonial or whatever, and try to make in as many memes as possible and really go big with it, for lack of a better word. So, if we did a webinar, we'd, take the recording, turn it into a video, chop it up, put it in a blog post, and then just try to give it as many different looks as possible, make it as digestible as possible for as many people as we could, and get the maximum run out of it. And I mean, it might sound like, something obvious, but I think there's something to being as efficient as possible with whenever you're creating content. So I know you guys, you do podcasting, you do a great job turning these podcasts into these, very readable, short, pieces of content people can do. We had a podcast Ambition, which I highly recommend, by the way, anyone using Sweetfish, because that was a huge pain trying to do that. But we would do like video interviews, and then we'd have slides and all this stuff. So, the ultimate goal is to make your content get to the broadest range of people possible, and in a format that they care about. Maybe people don't want to read, 1,000-word blog post. Maybe they want to just, listen to something, or maybe they want to watch a video. So get it in all those formats.
Today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing. Delphix, a big data platform, had hired an agency to manage their Google ads a few years ago, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted to see. Being such a technical B2B solution, they set out to find a team that could take on their challenge. After countless proposals, they found the perfect fit: Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. In just 1 week after launching Directive's campaigns, Delphix saw their lead volume double and their cost per lead drop by 60%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah. So you make a couple of great points, and thank you for that shout out to Sweetfish, by the way. That was very well timed, Jeremy.
Thank you.
The check is in the mail, sir. No, just kidding. So Gary Vee talks about, content on content on content, and you're hitting on this here. How can you take, the time investment to create the content and then slice and dice it into different ways to put it in front of different people in different formats, to be efficient with the content creation and then distribution. We've talked on the show a ton about the fact that, creating an audio episode for your podcast and then turning that into a LinkedIn status update is a system that we've helped develop for ourselves and our clients. What are some other ways, just to get real granular? Because I think, Jeremy, a lot of people see that, they get it, right? They understand that they need to be more efficient, but they struggle because, they don't have the VaynerMedia team behind them and tons of people, following around them to make that content production quick and efficient. What are a couple of things you've seen that maybe might be easier than people are thinking of if they kind of approach this slicing and dicing of the content a little more readily?
So I think it starts with what type of content are you creating? A great way to really sort of hit upon too what Blake was talking about earlier, which is so critical, is interviewing your clients. For example, let's say every marketer should be getting to know your clients or getting to know your target market really well. You want to know what the buyer pain points are. You want to know what their story is. You need to know who your best people, what are your best case studies or best referral options or whoever. So literally record that interview, get to know them, and then you can go on Fiverr. You can pay somebody, a very small amount of money if you don't want to do it in-house to create a audio file from it and get that thing on YouTube or get somewhere, where it's useful. I think there's also a lot to, I think, doing ebooks and then chopping those up into smaller blog posts. And especially if you have partners in your area, like kind of like what Blake and I are doing right now, where you can lean on each other and have them, cross-promoting what you're doing, you'll see overall more run from your content. So you can create, let's say, start with a big blog post or a series of client interviews, and you can really, or a big ebook and a series of client interviews, and you can basically take those and start to circulate them. Maybe one's more top of the funnel, getting, your awareness about your company up, and then the other is more bottom of the funnel. Here's who's using us. They love us. They're just like you. Here's the ROI they got and why they bought us, and having those go out.
Yeah. I love that you're touching on recording audio there again, man. I just, I feel like I've learned so much just in the last 4 months of being a co-host in the show, because I'm regularly having conversations with smart marketers who could be clients or could be referral partners, but they are part of the target market that we serve as a podcast agency. And therefore creating content with them, builds a relationship and also gives us content that we can share with other people in those exact same roles. So you're definitely hitting on a sweet spot that's near and dear to my heart, man. So great job there. The third piece I know you guys wanted to talk on, Jeremy, was your process and analytics. And I know there were a couple really tactical things that you guys share in the ebook as I took a look at some of the content, and a strategy on your SEO and your keywords that maybe isn't necessarily, coming straight to mind, and some of the things folks get wrong. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things people need to do is whenever you're creating new content, you need to optimize it for two things: searchability and internal use. So sales, use by sales enablement or sales reps, whatever. And that's the latter point is a second topic, but the first thing is searchability. So on Google, YouTube, whatever. One of the big things Blake and I like to do, and we talked about this in the ebook, is we use a SEO tool called Ahrefs. And we use Ahrefs, ahrefs.com, to search for keywords that are super relevant to our buyers. And what Ahrefs will do is it will pull up search suggestions of a bunch of similar keywords and phrases. So, for example, one we used was an ambition target-driven sales environment, or sales contest ideas, because we sold sales gamification. And we found the lowest difficulty keywords. So you can actually see, Ahrefs will show you, this is a very easy search term to rank for. If you get, 3 backlinks or a certain number of mentions to this post, you will rank high for it in Google. And it also gets this much search volume. So maybe it's not like the super obvious search term that's getting 10,000, searches a month, but it's getting 400, and it's very easy to rank for. If you get those 400 that sort of speak to your value, your sweet spot you offer as a company, then you're really looking good as far as inbound lead opportunity. So that's something I think people should really look into.
Yeah. I mean, the idea there is 400 out of 400 is way better than 0 out of 10,000, right?
That's right. It doesn't matter that you rank, 14th or whatever for this super difficult term, because you might be getting like 1% of the, the big volume, but you rank first for this term that's getting 400, you're going to be getting the vast majority of it. And the numbers prove that out to us over time. And there's little things, I'll just add, you can do little things like use Quora and these social media sites where you can get cheap backlinks, and backlinks are what drive SEO a lot. Plus, if you can get a read a million articles, they'll tell you how to write a post that's prime for searches. But yeah, highly recommend those. That lower threshold, lower difficulty, high opportunity searches, like go for those. That's where the money is.
Yeah, I can see where a lot of people are missing there. Blake, you want to add to that, I think?
I was going to say there are a couple other great things with that tool and other things to look at. I mean, when you're looking at your keywords, also see who is ranking for those and how good the content is, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you're if you're up against like IBM, Oracle, and SAP, and those are the top 3 for your keyword, like you probably need to look at some other keywords, unless you're creating some like incredibly epic content. And so it's a good way to use that tool, not only to track that, but you can also track your competitors and get a sense for like, what are they doing from a content perspective, and what type of dollars are they investing? You can usually see, like, are they adding more links? Are they getting more shareable content? What's their organic search? So there's a lot that you can do with that tool specifically.
I love it, guys. So we'll definitely link to the Ahrefs tool. I think a lot of marketers are going to find some value out of that. Appreciate you guys sharing that, as well as your thoughts and some of the key takeaways from this ebook that you guys put out, and some of the lessons in this inbound marketing playbook. Jeremy, I'll start with you as we close out. If anybody listening to this would like to stay connected with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, I'm available, Jeremy at jeremy-boudinet boudinet.com. Just email me, and always down to chat marketing, discuss what people are doing, or if you need help. Obviously, I'm available for that as well. My website's jeremy-boudinet.com.
Awesome. Blake, where can people find you, man?
Yep. LinkedIn, it's Blake at OutboundView, or my email is blake.johnston@outboundview.com.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, we'll also link to the Organic Inbound Marketing Playbook for B2B in the show notes of this episode. Really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing some of the nuggets out of this ebook with our listeners today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.